What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of The Captain's Run. Wow. I mean, I'm a bit shell-shocked, to be honest. An absolute bomb has hit the rugby league community this morning with the great Dave Fifita saying, no, sir, I want to stay at the Titans after reportedly agreeing to terms with the Roosters. But first of all, we've got to speak to Smithy. How you going, mate?
Oh, Campy, I'm great. I'm really good. Great weekend of footy that just went by. We got Magic Round coming up this weekend. 3 great days of football. Well, make it 4, including Thursday night. Tomorrow night, of course, the Women's State of Origin. Game 1, the Mighty Maroons take on the Sky Blues. So just to see who draws first blood there at Suncorp Stadium to kick off what is going to be a huge game tomorrow night. And then, of course, a massive weekend as well. Sold out, Kempy. Sold out. 3 days of rugby league. It is sold out. So, yeah, big weekend, but like the news this morning.
Let's get into it, shall we, in regards to David Fifita. Okay, so he signed with the club last Thursday, apparently, after opting to not take up his contract with the Titans, his option. Now, it says signed. I'm not sure whether he actually signed. I think he agreed potentially to terms.
Yes.
Now, you probably know a bit more about this than me, Smithy, but it's my understanding that even if he signed, you have a cooling off period. I'm not sure what the period is. It might be 10 days or something along those lines. But anyway, he agreed to terms. And then at 7:35 this morning, the Titans can confirm that David Fifita will remain at the club beyond 2024 and have approved his request to activate his player option for the next 2 seasons at 7:40, so 5 minutes later. The Roosters said they had withdrawn their offer to Fifita, despite his management making the initial approach to the club, and Fifita personally informing the Sydney Roosters chairman and head coach of his intent to join the club last Thursday. Fifita has since expressed doubt about his decision. Now, Politis has also been quoted saying that, he had basically agreed to terms and it's quite confusing to him. Apologies, I'll just get the quote up right now. He approached us. It's hard to understand. That is what Politis has told the Telegraph. On top of that, I think it was last night that Fifita may have called Politis and to tell him that he was going to stay at the Titans. Mate, speak to me, Smithy. What is going on, mate?
No idea. Oh, we spoke about this last week, Kempy, and I mentioned how I was confused that Fifita actually even considering leaving, given he just re-signed only 6 months prior with that coach clause that he and Big Tino had in their initial contracts around Justin Holbrook and whether he was going to be the coach moving forward. They each had a clause there where they could get out of their Titans contract and move on, but they both chose to stay, and I believe they were both upgraded and extended. And it was only just recently that happened, sort of halfway through last year. So, I was a bit confused of him, deciding to move on like now, which was last week, right? The deadline was last Thursday. But to now learn that he's backflipped again, it's just, I don't know what's going on. And I don't know, and it's hard to comment, right? And unless Dave Fifita actually comes out and sits down and says, look, guys, honestly, this is what's happened, right? I just, this reason as to why I thought the best thing for myself was to leave the Titans. But then, I have seen a quote from him saying, like upon reflection, moving on, like that he feels as though that the club is heading in the right direction, and that's why he wants to stay like that. Was that just because of the one win on the weekend? The only thing but it can be like that's the only thing that's changed.
Yeah.
In the space of 4 days. So he had to make the decision on Thursday. So we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. 6 days. So 6 days from when he made the decision that no, the Titans aren't the team for me. I'm going to go to Sydney. It's going to be the Roosters moving forward. And then 6 days later, he says, oh, no, actually, upon reflection, Gold Coast is the best place for me. I see a great future here. It's just it's a really weird one. But, the only person that knows is Dave Fifita. So we can speculate and we can toss up, sort of reasons as to why we believe it. He's made that decision. But the only person we're going to find out from is Dave.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is lost in all of this noise is Penrith Panthers, who I, I'd heard whispers that they were actually quite confident that he was going to go there. So
Right.
even when he, reportedly had agreed to the Roosters, I'm hearing that the Panthers were quite like shocked by that, thinking that they had their man, and he
Right.
was quite like keen to get there. So it is quite a bizarre situation. I do think. I understand the frustrations from the Roosters side for sure. Like
Mm.
you'd be super frustrated. We're going to get to the Angus Crichton situation because you've put his nose out of joint now as well, which
Yeah,
is not
that's
good
right.
for the Roosters. But I will say it is real. Like there is a genuine possibility that he said yes, and then he just went to bed that night, and then over the weekend it just didn't sit right. Like he just kept thinking
Mm.
about it, and he just was like, you know what, this doesn't feel like the right decision. And I think we'd all be kidding ourselves if there haven't been periods in our lives where we've agreed to certain things and then gone, oh man, I don't know if I should have, agreed to this or agreed to that.
Yeah. Mm.
So I think the fact that, like, okay, yeah, Roosters fan, you can be frustrated because your word's your word and all of that. I understand that. I totally get that. But I don't think it's so unreasonable to assume that he just sat on it over the weekend and thought,
Mm.
you know what, I just don't want to leave my family. Like I don't want to leave Queensland. I'm close
Yep.
to I've got a really tight base here. Um, I'm on a good wicket. Life is pretty good. I will say you could speculate and say, you know, even though I'm sure he wants to build into a premiership at the Titans,
Mm.
maybe it's a bit less of a priority than maybe we thought a week ago.
Yep.
Because the Roosters are obviously substantially closer to a premiership than the Titans. Again, that's pure speculation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Look, I'm not denying, the opportunity that Dave has to change his mind. I think everyone's entitled to that, particularly when you have legally a cooling off period to make that change of your initial decision. There's no dramas from me there. Everyone's entitled to that, but I think it's just strange because he's come out and said that he feels as though that the club's heading in the right direction, gives him an opportunity now to be closer to his family and his home, and his family who have played a integral part into this decision now to stay at the Titans. I would have thought that would have been your first thing you thought about initially.
absolutely.
So when you know what I mean? This is the confusing and the really strange part about this whole backflip and this whole scenario with Dave Fifita. When this deadline was put upon him in this round 10 sort of deadline where he had to make a decision whether he was going to take up the clause to get out or just stay on. Through my experiences as a footy player, when it come to signing contracts, that they were the first people that you sat down and spoke with was your family.
Yeah.
So what was the initial discussions? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to break this down and work out exactly how this all sort of came about in the original decision to go to agree with the Roosters or sign with the Roosters, whatever he did. What were the discussions with his family then?
Yeah.
And then 6 days later they change. And then he comes out and says, that's the reason why I have changed, is to be closer to home and around my family, that's great. And that's fair enough. And if that's his decision, then that's his decision. That's his right to do so. But what was behind the initial decision to, agree to terms with the Roosters? It's all really strange for me for the way it's gone down. But, great for the Titans. Great for the Titans now that they've got their man locked in for another couple of years. He played a great game of footy on the weekend, I thought, to help them get a victory against the Cowboys. And now hopefully he can just concentrate on playing some good footy.
Oh, it really is two options in my opinion. That one option is something changed over the weekend. Something new came up that, is private to obviously Fifita.
Yeah.
Or the other option is this is a massive learning curve for Fifita about thought processes around contracts and, making sure that when you do have these very serious conversations with some very serious people in Politis, that you're very measured with exactly how you feel rather than, going, I think like I want to go. Okay, I agree to it. You know what I'm saying? I think that it's going to be, you'll learn a lot from it.
Yeah, and if he went down and met with those guys, they're they're very successful people, right? And maybe Dave was just a little bit intimidated by the whole situation and just thought, oh, look, this all sounds great, what I'm hearing. And, I don't really feel as though, or I don't feel comfortable saying no to these people. If you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I just maybe he felt like he had to say yes. And then, upon reflection, as he said over those recent days, he's come home and just thought, oh, look, actually, I don't feel overly comfortable moving away from my family and my home of Queensland. This is where I want to be. So that's the reason behind it. But at the end of the day, like, that's the only person that knows exactly what's going on is Dave and those close to him, and whether he wants to reveal that to us or the public or whatever, that's entirely up to him. If he doesn't want to, then he doesn't want to. It's just it's a bit of news for us at the moment, and business as usual for the Titans and Dave Fifita now for the next couple of years.
Where do you think Angus Crichton will end up? Now, Trent Robinson on Monday, he was quoted saying, "I'm not naive to think that it doesn't. That's the hard thing. When you're in a club and you walk in every day, it's the balance between players you have and then trying to get some guys that you think can change the way you play. The door isn't closed on Crichton. He's in the best form that he's been in years. He's an Australian player. He's fighting for a back row spot in Origin. So it's not the end of the road yet. There hasn't been any negotiations or anything, but some discussions." And then Crichton told reporters on Monday, "It does make you question where their head's at. No one's talked to me, which is funny. Last I heard, they were keen to re-sign me, but then obviously Fifita news came out. It's an interesting one and something I'll have to monitor. No one's talked to me, and I'm not sure if they will."
Oh, whew. Wow.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Smithy?
Yeah, well, when your players are feeling sort of isolated like that and sort of just kept in the dark over their future, I think you're sort of sitting there thinking, well, is this the place for me? That's the first thing that comes to my mind, is that, does this club really sort of want my services moving forward? And I think it hurts the ego a little bit that, for Angus Crichton to have, David Fifita pursued by the footy club who plays in the same position as he does. So you're probably thinking to yourself already, well, that's a clear sign that I'm not high on their priority, to either, retain my services or even think that I'm the best option moving forward for them in the back row. So, I think right now it puts him now in a really strong position, doesn't it, moving forward? Mm-hmm. I think, as far as negotiations go with the Roosters, now that Dave Fifita's decided that he's going to stay at the Titans. And as much as, he may be a little bit upset, I think you just got to put your emotions aside right now if you're Angus Crichton and go, right, now this is business. I'm sure, Trent Robinson has conceded in those comments you just read out. Can't be that, Angus is playing some of the best football he has played in several years, and I agree with that. Like, he's playing outstanding, along with the rest of his team. Like, they've hit a bit of a purple patch over the last 3 or 4 weeks, but certainly Angus Crichton has been one of their better players. And, mate, that form has got him pushing for a New South Wales jersey. Getting back into that representative scene that he was in a couple of years ago. So I think he's in a strong position as far as his negotiating goes with any club right now, not just the Roosters.
I tell you what, Angus Crichton, 3 months ago, it was almost like no club was kind of interested. It was rugby union. Now, take your pick. Tell me the amount of NRL clubs that would love to have Angus Crichton on the edge there. You got the Bulldogs, you got Para. There are so many clubs that could use a guy like Angus Crichton on their edge. You've got Penrith that were interested in Fifita, so you'd assume they might be interested in Crichton. Mm-hmm. It's a tough one because from Angus' perspective, you go, the last few years, anyone that's followed his kind of last trajectory, every single year, at least on my podcast, we've been like, is Angus even re-signed for next year? Like, he's one of the best players in the comp and he's not re-signed. And so usually he has quite a good relationship with the Roosters where they wait till quite late to re-sign him. Like, he has been on the table to be negotiated with for many years. So he's had quite a good relationship with them and also trusted them. Now, on the flip side, the Roosters were very patient and very helpful during Crichton's tough time as well.
Yep.
So last year. So both parties have kind of they've been good to each other. But I guess from like Crichton's position, it would be hard to stomach that negotiation now. Like that first phone call that you get of if the Roosters are keen to keep him, of oh mate, we'd love to keep you, and here's this big offer.
Yeah.
There would be a sense of like, well, you didn't want me a week ago. Like,
No, that's right.
I'm just the backup guy. When I feel like I'm playing really good footy. And then there's obviously Satili Tupanua as well that I'm sure he's probably more likely to stay because he's not on a bigger contract and he's been injured a little bit. I do think it opens up quite a lot in regards to what Crichton can do, and it drives his value up, I think, a lot as well, because before this happened, I think a lot of people just probably steered clear of Crichton because they were like, oh, he's always going to stay with the Roosters because they've got such a good relationship.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm sure there's a few clubs, inquiring now going, look, is it a real possibility that you'd be willing to leave and not go to Union now?
Oh, mate, I think he's in a great position, particularly with the footy that he's playing. I think that's just it's giving him a great opportunity to sort of have a look at the opportunities out there. And I think there'll be plenty of teams knocking on the door. There's no doubt about that. Given what he's displaying at the moment for the Roosters, and everyone knows his ability over the long period of time. And I know he had a few issues last year that he had to deal with, and his club did stand by him, so I'm sure he's aware of that. But it hurts, mate. Like it hurts as a player to be sort of put on the back burner a little bit and kept in the dark around sort of what your future looks like at your current club. And they choose to pursue someone else in front of you. So they're putting preference to someone else instead of you in the same position. So you got to, when you leave training and you go home and you're sort of sitting there thinking to yourself, you're thinking, well, look, does my future really sit at this club? Or, do I need to start looking elsewhere because, 24 hours ago, I wasn't really the man that they wanted. There was someone else that they wanted in front of me. So, I think, you mentioned Penrith. They were on the hunt, as we all know, for Dave Fifita. They missed out on him. So maybe Crichton will be pursued by them now. I think Parramatta might be interested. We had one of our listeners text in and say, we'll take Angus at Para in a heartbeat. So, and they're not the only club either, mate. Like there'd be clubs out there that are looking for, guys that of his quality first and foremost. And secondly, like he brings a lot of experience as well in that position. And he's played at the highest level. He's played in big matches. There's a lot of upside to Angus Crichton.
Mate, take away all the noise. Take away the name Angus Crichton and just look at the form he's playing. What's crazy is we see blokes signing contracts like 2 years out. He doesn't have a contract for next year. That's the reality of the situation. We've got a guy that's most likely going to be playing for New South Wales, an Australian representative, that doesn't have a contract for next year. It is crazy that he hasn't been snapped up yet. And I understand that his form has built into this year. But I guess that just shows you the unique situation we kind of find ourselves in, that a representative player that's arguably the best in his position in the game and arguably one of the best players form-wise in the game. Yeah. I personally, if I was a betting man, I think that the fact that the Roosters really did stick by him last year through some really tough times and were really good with his family, I think that's enough. And they wouldn't have done it for this reason, but currency of loyalty of mate, when it got tough, we were there for you. Yeah, okay, maybe we bungled this a little bit and we should have communicated better, but our actions have spoken over the last few years for you.
Yeah. I don't see him moving. My personal view is I don't see him moving to another club either. I just at this stage of his career, and particularly what happened last year and the way the club stood by him and helped him through that bit of process to get back to good health and playing football again. I think he'll repay them for the way they sort of helped him through that period of time, and he's done some great things at that footy club, and I think he'll want to continue that on now. Maybe it changes from a 12-month deal, Kempy, that he's done over the last few years to now trying to secure maybe something a little bit longer to try and gain that bit more of security in the back end of his career.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think he'll stay. And also, they are I know it's only been a few weeks, but they are red hot, like
Yeah.
absolutely red hot. If they keep this form up, they absolutely can win the comp this year. Michael Chamis reportedly, Wayne Bennett has reportedly agreed to $3 million, 3 year, $3 million, so $1 million a year. Now, Rabbitohs official, this is a quote from Michael Chamis, Rabbitohs officials are reluctant to celebrate the deal given Bennett's history of 11th hour changes. Most famously reneging on verbal agreements to previously join the Roosters and a second stint at the Dragons. What does this all mean for South Sydney? What do you reckon, Smithy?
Well, it's there's been plenty of talk about this happening, hasn't there?
Mm.
You know, about Wayne heading back to the Rabbitohs, and you know he did a great job down there in his stint previously. But yeah, I don't know. He's always up for a challenge. There's no doubt about that. You just seen over the last season and a half with the Dolphins, he took on the expansion club, and he's done such a great job with them so far. So he's going to a club that it look by all reports are just not in a great place at the moment overall, and you can see that by their performances and the results across most weekends. They've only won the one game this year, so they really are struggling. I can't remember the last time the Rabbitohs were sitting so low on the ladder. They've always been sort of in and around the top 8. So there's no doubt there's a challenge on his hands, but I think we've seen history has shown that he's the right guy for the job. If you want a big change and a bit of a let's not say a clean out, but a change in attitude of certain players and just making sure that club or that football side gets back to its optimum performance, then Wayne's the man to do that. He somehow has a way, he has a knack to be able to get the most out of his football players and the people around him, staff included. He's just got that ability. He's been around the game for a long, long time. He was a player. He's coached at state of origin level. He's coached at international level for various countries, Australia, New Zealand, England. So he has been around a long, long time, and you wouldn't get too many more experienced people than him, like rugby league people I'm talking about. So, I think he's the right person to come in and do the job. Whether or not that it happens, let's just pump the brakes a little bit because, as you just mentioned, he has got a bit of a history of pulling the pin late. So this is just news at the moment. It's reported that he has agreed to go down there, but maybe it's this weekend that the Rabbitohs officials get a chance to actually put a contract in front of Wayne, given that all the teams are in town, and once it's signed, then we could probably talk a little bit more in depth.
Mate, now this is time for the good oil, thanks to Cobram Estate, Australia's most awarded extra virgin olive oil, grown, harvested, first cold pressed in northern Victoria. Okay, so the NRL has opened an investigation into third-party deal involving Newcastle star Kalen Ponga, a business associate of one of the club's most senior figures. The deal, which was given written approval by the NRL 4 years ago, is believed to be worth 6 figures and has come under the microscope after Ponga's father, Andre, raised concerns regarding the agreement. Knights officials confirmed the deal has been given the green light by the NRL in 2020, and the club was confident the issue was not with them. So essentially, the NRL is aware of it. They're reviewing it. Now, there's been reports today that it has been paid the money that was allegedly owing. This whole situation is absolutely bizarre to me. Because the report essentially was that Ponga's father, which is his manager, so Ponga's manager has just gone to the NRL for clarifications around some pretty straightforward stuff that I'm assuming he probably, I'm not sure, but pretty straightforward stuff as a manager. And I guess the thing is that going to the NRL to query about some pretty straightforward stuff, you would have to assume that you could go to the Knights about, because apparently the initial inquiry was about some ratcheting up of percentages as the salary cap goes up. Ponga's wage goes up, and then that turned into apparently money owed. The thing is it's very vague. I think the only things we do know is that the manager went to the NRL about some things in Kalen Ponga's contract. I find this whole situation really, really bizarre, and it could be absolutely nothing. Like it could be a story that's been ginned up, or there could be quite a bit more to it. I don't know where I land on this one, Smithy. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I think the situation, I think it arose because Andre, his father and agent, went to the NRL to say, look, Caitlin is owed money through a third-party deal. And I think that's where it all arose from. And I think the NRL have looked at it and gone, well, look, this is all legitimate. It's been ticked off by our salary cap auditor at the time when the contract was signed, but just said that I think the NRL has then gone on to say if the payment is not made by the third party, then the club may have to absorb it. Now, that's where it becomes an issue, because if they absorb that payment, it then goes on their salary cap, their future salary cap. So then that restricts, their ability to retain players, to sign new players, guys that are looking for upgrades or extensions, that type of thing. So it could have implications for the club moving forward. That's where the issue, I think, arises for the footy club. I think the Knights have come out and said, look, it's got nothing to do with us.
As third parties are supposed to,
they're meant to be arm length from the club, so it's got nothing to do with them. Like, they're saying, well, why? This has nothing to do with us. Why should we be forced to pay that money owing? Because they don't have those third parties that are included in the contracts. They're not allowed to have anything to do with organising them or finding them.
It'd be a breach if they did have something to do with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so
I think as it stands, look, I don't know where this goes from here. If the Knights were to have to pay that, to take that payment into their salary cap moving forward, like that's a big hit. Like they're talking six figures, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, and we don't know. Yeah, that could be the difference in re-signing one of their key players moving forward, or looking to buy an up and coming player. Whichever way it is, it's going to have an effect on their roster moving forward.
No directive given to match officials or the match review committee about any supposed crackdown on incidents like that, and that is purely a discretionary matter for the referees to use their judgment. But there has been no crackdown.
There you go. No crackdown, which unfortunately makes the decision even more bizarre. I think you could almost, if there was a crackdown because of the recent injuries, even though it's not the right thing to do in my opinion, you could be like, look, I get it. I get where they're coming from. The fact that there was no crackdown and it was still 10 in the bin, you're just looking at it like a Barry Crocker then. It's just pure Barry Crocker. Well, what do you reckon, Smithy?
Oh, mate, I was watching this game on telly and I shook my head. When the ball went downfield, I just had this feeling. I seen the referee watching the ball go down and blow his penalty. I thought, oh no, here we go. It's just, mate, it's embarrassing. I'm sorry, but it's embarrassing. Like, where are we taking our game with the way it's being officiated? Like, it's just, oh mate, it's not good. It's not good. Like there was minimal contact that Harry Grant made on Dan Atkinson on his leg. Like, you would cop, these players would cop bigger knocks to their bodies at training and would not even blink an eye.
Yeah.
Would not blink an eye. They just get on with their training session and go to their next job, right? But because they know that the officials are they're over officiating, and they're the words from Graham Annesley. And I think he was actually referencing the call to penalise Jesse Bromwich for the high contact on Tom Trbojevic, which was another embarrassing call. Just leave the players be. Like a lot of this contact that's being penalised, it's so insignificant. It's not funny. Like Turbo would not have felt that the other night. He actually laughed. Yeah. We seen on the replay when he challenged it because he knew he got touched in the face, and he challenged it. He got away with it. Like, he got rewarded with it was a pretty ordinary call, right? And he laughed. He was thinking to himself, geez, I've got away with one there. Yeah. So, and then that one the other night, like, to sin bin him, for barely brushing his leg. And yeah, I'm glad. And you know what? I'll go even further. I was even surprised that the MRC charged him.
Yeah.
You know, I thought there
Bizarre.
was an opportunity there for the MRC to sit down and look at it and go, you know what? Let's have a bit of common sense about this. There's a fair penalty given to Harry Grant, for what happened for getting 10 in the bin. Like that's a fair penalty for that, right? And his team. You know, it was a high stakes game, 1v2, and they had to spend 10 minutes playing with 12 men. Look, there was nothing in it. Send a letter down to Harry and say, mate, please be careful with this. Like when you're going out to put pressure on kickers, just be aware that you don't go in there directly at the legs. But they charged him, so like, good on him for fighting. And you know what? I'm glad the Storm backed him up, that he wanted to fight the charge, because sometimes clubs they're a little bit hesitant in those situations, thinking, well, look, if we go up and fight it, they'll make a bit of an example of us, just to scare away future incidents like this where people want to take it on. But I'm glad they got behind Harry, because he was pretty strong about fighting the charge. It was $1,000, but $1,000 is $1,000 at the end of the day. So I'm glad that it was knocked on the head by I think Tony Pulatua and Sean Hampstead, like a former referee.
Yeah, wow.
A former referee, Campy, were the panelists.
Yeah.
That had judged that it didn't need a fine. I think they did say like it was dangerous in a sense that it could lead to an injury, but judged that there was no intent, there was no malice, and there was insignificant contact. So, look, I'm all for protecting players. I think we all are. Like this. I'm getting a little bit over this discussion that we continually have every week, right? Everyone is all for the safety and the well-being of players on the football field, but I just think we're going a little bit too far at the moment. We're over-officiating things. Just let it go. Like if that was to stand up at judiciary, where Harry Grant gets 10 in the bin, gets fined or even suspended, and then he goes and fights it and it's upheld, right? My question is, where are we going as a game from there?
Yeah.
Like, do we then go, right, there is not to be any kick pressure on kickers? So then what rule do you put around kickers? They're not allowed to run to the line and kick? Are they not allowed to go past the advantage line? They must kick from behind the advantage line? Like, how, do you know what I mean?
Oh, mate.
Like, this is a game where if you receive the football or you have the football in your hands, be prepared that you're going to be put under pressure.
Yeah.
That's our game.
Yeah.
You're going to be put under pressure, because if you're not, then like, you're the most dangerous person on the football field. When you have the ball in the hands, you are the most dangerous person on the football field, and you can hurt the opposition if you're not attacked by a defender.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, mate, absolutely.
It's just crazy, like, to think that we're going that way. So I'm glad it was upheld. I'm completely against the old style of charge downs where people used to go out and dive at people's legs and all that sort of stuff, man. They're like, like we're talking, we're being, we're using our common sense here. Like, we're not saying, go for it. It's open slather. And attacking kickers, particularly when they're in the air, they're in a vulnerable position. But seriously, when you're going through, when you're standing, he was standing 1.5 meters in front of Dan Atkinson, and he just he brushed his leg as he walked past. Like, that would not bruise a grape.
Yeah. I've been in chats with Madgen. I've been trying to really put a focus on keeping my body together for South, mate. As everyone knows, we're in a bit of a rut, and my main focus is here, mate. And there's plenty of young kids that do the Blues proud and do a great job there. So I'll sit in my position of staying retired and leave it up to them young fellas to fly the flag. And yeah.
There you go, Jackie Whiten saying, passing on to the next generation. So what is the solution for the Blues, do you think, Smithy? Do you think it's... Obviously, Cleary, I think, is the biggest out of the lot. He's a key playmaker. But with guys like Moses obviously coming back, now it's going to be a short turnaround. They do have Hines, who I understand he hasn't played Origin footy in the 6 or the 7. But we're talking about Dally M7 that's currently the 7 of the Sharks, who are on top of the table. We're not talking about just any mug that can fill that 7 jersey. He's a bloody good 7.
I don't know. I don't know if you want to go into Origin 1 with a guy that's played one game possibly. One game in the space of 2 months?
Yeah.
He's going to be a little bit underdone, and it doesn't matter sort of how many games you've played, how experienced you are, one game in the space of 2 months, to me, I think you're going to be underdone.
Mm.
Given the intensity and the physicality in which State of Origin is played at, I just think you need a few more minutes under your belt. One more game I think would have been passable for me.
Yep.
So if he was named and played this week and played strongly over the next fortnight, I think they would have gone with him. But I think he might miss out now, mate, Mitch Moses. So it could be a Nico Hines. I'm thinking Hines is going to be there, right?
For sure.
So I think it'll be Hines, and then possibly could it be Cody Walker? Could it be Jerome Luai, or could it be Burton? I'm guessing it's going to be out of those three.
Oh man, doesn't it just this Cleary injury completely throws out of whack who you would assume would be selected, because a lot of these selections were based around combinations with Cleary.
Yes.
And so, for example, you would have thought, my opinion, I thought Dylan Edwards was a shoo-in before, and that's no disrespect to Teddy. He's been playing outstanding. I just thought, time for a fresh go at the, charged everything, freshen things up. It has nothing to do with form and more to do with connections and freshening things up. But now when you go, okay, well, Cleary's not going to be there. Teddy's been playing incredibly well.
Yes.
Does he get that same, a shot again to work with maybe Hines? Because I guess the knock has been him and Cleary haven't really clicked. Maybe he clicks with Hines. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, mate, it changes the whole way they're going to play, right? Because with Cleary there, the last few years, it's been based around the Penrith game plan and the style of footy that Cleary plays. Now, you can't ask Nico Hines to come in and play that way. He's not that style of player. No. He just doesn't play that way. And so what effect does that have on, say, guys like Isaiah Yeo, Liam Martin? I'm sure Stephen Crichton's going to be there too, and he would have relished the opportunity to get back and have that combination with his old Panthers crew.
Yep.
What effect does that have on those players as well?
Luai as well? Luai.
Yeah, possibly Luai as well. So, it's a big change up for this footy side. But, with change too, mate, a lot of people sort of sometimes get a little bit hung up on, no Nathan Cleary. Queensland's got to be favourites now. Well, maybe this could be a blessing in disguise for New South Wales. To have someone different in there, have a different combination, and just and play a different style of football to what they've played the last few years. You got to remember, they haven't won for 3 years. They haven't beaten Queensland in the past 2 series. Now that's we're not trying to stir up any New South Wales supporters here. That's fact.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe this might be an opportunity to have a look at a different combination, to have a look at different guys in those positions of 7 and 6, and go, right, is there a different way to play this Queensland team and possibly get a different result? A positive one for New South Wales.
Well, I tell you what, it's a great point, Smithy, because game planning for Nathan Cleary and the Penrith system, it's much more obvious what you're probably going to get from that core group of players.
Yep.
Whereas if you're going in, let's just assume Moses and Hines get picked. I'm just using those 2 random names.
Yep.
Let's say you're going Hines, Moses, and you went Dylan Edwards at the back. Very hard to guess what the game plan's going to be.
Yeah, a little bit more unpredictable, hey?
Yeah, what video do you watch? You can watch Hines, you can watch Moses, and you can watch Edwards, and you'll get literally 3 totally different styles of play.
Yep.
So you're right. It could be a weapon that almost okay, yes, Cleary being there, most likely there's an argument that even though it is Panther-style footy, it's better than the unexpected version of the Hines whatever combination. But in saying that, when you're playing only 3 games, you don't have that long to adjust
to
certain things that are happening.
Yep.
So yeah, it is a really, really good point in regards to.
What would be your gut feeling? So let's just throw in Moses, right? So let's just say he gets the one game next round.
Yep.
He misses this week, plays one game before Origin selection. So you got Moses, you got Luai, you've got Walker, and who else was there? Was there one
Keary.
other?
Keary potentially.
Keary.
Burton.
I don't think they're going to go. I don't think they'll go Keary, mate.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's not knocking his the way he's playing at the moment. I think he's playing great, and possibly Burton. So let's just go Burton. Or throw Keary in there. Who? What's your gut feel?
Mate, I personally, I totally, look, you know much more about Origin than I do, but I just look at Mitchell Moses and he seems like the guy that would keep his body in, and I know you cannot train for Origin, like I totally get that, but if there's one half that I'm very confident would come back in the best possible shape, we'll put it this way, I would be bringing in, Hines would be my 7 initially, with potentially either a Burton or a Luai, or whatever it is. But Mitchell Moses would be brought into camp, and I would be seeing how those first few days, I'd be looking at him and going, okay, is this bloke look like he's ready fitness-wise? Again, it's a guess.
Yep.
If Moses is in the side, he would be my 7, and Hines would be my 6.
Yep.
So it really, it swings on so much. Your outfit's going to look so different depending whether you go Hines or Moses, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, I'll go back to my point. Like, if he was named this week, which he's not, Mitch Moses, I think they would have gone with him and Nico Hines. He's been there, done it before. Moses, he's got a great kicking game. He's a goal kicker, and he's got great speed. I think he's just got an ability that, he can be a bit of an X factor. You know what I mean? Nico Hines is a bit more of a steady sort of a half where he's a bit more controlled, but Mitch Moses can come up with the unexpected at times, which I think in Origin, it's sort of, for the most part of the game, you're coming off your own end, right? Or playing midfield and then you're kicking along. But if you get opportunities, he's the type of guy that can come up with just something out of the ordinary to really break your line. I've seen it firsthand playing against Parramatta and playing against him. So I think they would have gone with him. But now with only the one game, I don't know. Do they go to their man did he get the man of the match last year? Game 3, Walker?
He killed it. Yeah, he killed it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Do they look at that? For mine, I don't think they can, given his form with Rabbitohs this year. I think it's a big ask to say, hey, mate, look, come now and try and be the best player in Origin for us.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen him play, although there's been improvements of his own performance the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely, yep.
I think I just think that he's just not in the right space at the moment to take on Origin. So maybe it is Luai or Burton. Maybe it is those two.
I could see Burton. It just depends on. To be honest, if I'm being honest, if it's not Moses, I'd be looking at who's the best defensive 6 in the comp. In regards to Burton and Luai.
Yep.
And I'd just be picking the best defensive player that I can. Just the best bloke in contact, with the highest tackle efficiency, because I do believe that, New South Wales, they are not lacking for weapons to get put points on. So if you need to take a little bit of a hit in attack with your 6, Hines can pick up that slack because he's kind of like a 6 wearing a 7 jersey at times with his running game.
Yeah.
So I'd be picking the best. Whoever has the best defence, I'd probably be picking that as 6 if Moses isn't going to be there.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. If Moses is not there, pick a guy that is going to be really efficient with his tackling, and just tell Nico to run the show.
Yep.
The big question though, and I know you mentioned this at the start, I still have a question mark on Nico.
Okay.
To make that step up, so he's only had the one opportunity. Now I know he got thrown out in the centres, and he was a part of that sort of that run of play where Munster made that line break and the hammer went downfield and Queensland scored. But you can be, I've seen over the period of time that I've followed footy and played State of Origin football, that you can be one of the better players in the NRL competition, right? But State of Origin is a different game, mate.
Yeah. It's
a different game. And some guys just, they can't make that step to the next level. So, and as a former teammate, I'd love to see Nicho Hynes, prove a lot of people wrong. But the jury's still out on whether he can play in that arena at that level. There's no doubt he's a high quality NRL player. He's one of the best halves in the comp. He's one of Dally M. So, but until you go into that arena and dominate, like people are still talking about Nathan Cleary.
Yeah.
Hasn't dominated an Origin series yet.
Great point.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like Nico's only had that really brief opportunity at that level. He's yet to be given, the reins of the football side of the state and say, here you go, mate. Go win a series for us.
Oh, and as a guy that's obviously never played Origin, but just outside looking in, you just imagine that extra pressure ratcheted up that's going to be specifically targeted at Hynes. Would be interesting to see how he reacted to a first 20 where things, the momentum's not really going his way and everything that he thought that would work for him is not working this stage. Mate. Look, I hope he can step up, but you're right. It is a question. It's a genuine question. Can he step up?
He's got the traits and the personality, right, to be able to handle and deal with that pressure. Again, I've seen it firsthand playing alongside him with the Melbourne Storm, but he is yet to be tested at that level when he's been given, whether it be the 7 on his back or a 6, and said, "Listen, here, this is your team. You go guide it to a victory against Queensland."
Ooh. Wayne Bennett has been quoted only 55 minutes ago to the Daily Telegraph. "I'm not going anywhere until I sign a contract." Wow. Then the Telegraph says, Wayne Bennett has rejected suggestions that any Rabbitohs reunion is locked in, warning those who say it is, just look at what happened between David Fifita and the Roosters. Oh, no.
There you go.
Oh, no. Yikes.
Well, yep, there you go. So the Rabbitohs, they've got all weekend to get a hold of Wayne.
Oh, my God.
So they're playing, what are they playing? They're playing Saturday night. Magic Round, of course. So everyone's in town, like I said. So they're taking on the Cowboys. They're the last game Saturday. And Wayne doesn't play. His Dolphins don't play until 6:30 on the Sunday evening.
Oh, my.
So they've got all weekend.
Wine and
just
dine.
Find him,
Yep.
take him out, and just say, "Oh, he's too smart, mate. You know what he's doing? He's just pumping the dollars up."
Get an extra few $100,000.
Yeah, he's just pumping it up.
Just chuck her in, son.
Just squirm a little bit over the next couple of days, and when they turn up to Brisbane, they've had to pay a little bit extra baggage fee for the purse is going to be a bit heavier coming up on the flight up from Sydney.
Oh,
yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You're just going to get a bit more money, Wayne. Too good.
Mate.
Mate, he knows the game, mate. He's been around for that long.
I tell you what, for a bloke that apparently doesn't like the media, he's sure good at it. He's
too
good at it. He's a veteran. He's one of the greats. Okay, welcome to Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Shop half-price vitamins at Chemist Warehouse. Mayhem sale. Raiders versus the Bulldogs Friday. We're talking Magic Round, guys. The best round all year. Seriously, I love Magic Round. I'm obviously going to be up there. Smithy will be up there. Everyone's going to be up there. Live on SEN, Joel Kane, Scott Sattler, Matty Rogers. Raiders team news. Rapana is back after missing 4 games knee injury. Papali'i named to start a prop. Horsburgh remains sidelined with a groin injury. Dogs are unchanged from the side that pushed Penrith all the way last week. What do you reckon, Smithy?
Yeah, I like this matchup. Unchanged doggies. I love the way they took on the Penrith Panthers last week. Now, I know that Cleary got injured pretty early, so they played against a side without Cleary for, about 3/4 of the match. I just love their fight, though. They're playing with a bit of resilience at the moment. I know they got a few guys last week that are playing against their old footy club, and they would have been up for it, but they've shown some good signs over the last few weeks. So they take a little bit of form going into this one. Raiders, Rapana back.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep.
Papali'i is starting. Mate, when's Corey Horsburgh?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one.
Like no go this week.
Yeah.
So, another week without the Big Red. But look, I think possibly doggies, mate. Possibly. This is a tough one to gauge. But just the form that they're taking in, got close last week, and they're playing with a lot of confidence and they're playing with grit, right? So possibly doggies. Yeah, I think doggies.
Look, the Doggies, I was a bit surprised at, listening to the commentators. I was obviously watching on KO, and just listening to commentators, I didn't feel like the Doggies got enough raps for how well they went against the Penrith Panthers. Now, I know that, for the most of the game, or pretty much all of it, the Panthers were in control, but it's no easy feat to keep the Penrith Panthers to 16 points and then come back 16-10.
Like, that's right.
We're talking about Bulldogs here, who last year were it was diabolical. Like the defense, no one was defending in the systems that Ciraldo was trying to implement.
Yep.
I really like what I see of the Dogs. Now, I still don't have them in my 8 towards the end of the year, but they have made far more progress than I thought they would in the short amount of time. I love their grit. I love their playing for each other. I also love that they look like they have a bit of a game plan now. Like they genuinely look like they're getting to points on the field. And then, you don't ever want to be predictable as a team, but at the same time, you want to look like you've got a skeleton of a game plan. And what I like about the Bulldogs is they have a skeleton. Like you can look at 80 minutes from this week to 80 minutes of last week, and you can see similarities as to what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm really liking what's going on with the Bulldogs. I think that they're not only did they have a great performance against the Penrith Panthers last night, they were the first team in New South Wales Cup to beat the Penrith Panthers this year.
Really?
Yes. So again, they got really good juniors coming through.
Yep.
Now onto the Raiders. The Raiders are almost the last team you want to play in regards to. Obviously, you don't want to play Penrith in the top tier sides because they're the toughest teams to play, and they most likely will beat you. The Raiders, on the other hand, you're going in thinking they got no halves, they got young guys in the halves, there's all these injuries. But look what they did to Manly before the bye.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's just like you just don't know. The Raiders love to upset parties, so you don't know what they're going to do.
And they fought back from remembering against the Seagulls. They come back from 20 points down, I think. It was.
Yeah, mate.
They led 20 blot, the Seagulls.
Yeah.
And they fought back and won that game. So there's no doubting that they're a tough side and they love the arm wrestle. But yeah, I just think they're bringing in that a pretty good run of form at the moment, the Doggies, and they'll be feeling good. And I agree with you. I like the mindset and the attitude that they're playing with at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's, it's always going to take a little bit of time, right? So there's been change in coach, change in personnel, slowly building like a team around some key individuals in that footy side that they feel they can move forward and be really competitive in the competition. But it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. But the biggest change that they've had, which was the change that they needed, was their mindset and their attitude towards their footy. Like you said, like last year, they were no good.
Yeah.
No good. Like they failed to compete in a lot of the matches that they play. Whereas now, like, last week they probably finished that game feeling they were a little bit unlucky not to win it. But they had opportunities. If they were playing against any other side, pretty much any other side in the competition, they'd probably win that game. But it comes like some desperate goal line defence, which Penrith are known for, and they come up with some pretty big tackles to defend their try line against the Doggies. They may have won, but loving what I'm seeing out of the Bulldogs at the moment.
Well, mate, they had more line breaks than Panthers. So that just tells you, if they can execute on some of those line breaks, maybe they do get over the line. Now on to Manly versus Broncos. Kohler has been named at fullback for Trbojevic. Tommy Talau moves to centres. Vanga comes in on the wing for his second in a row game of the season. Olakau'atu returns, huge in for Manly. Broncos team news. Smoothie promoted to starting number 9 with Walters out. And the new face on the bench is rookie Blake Moser, who plays just his second NRL career game. Highly touted number 9. How do you see this one playing out, Smithy?
Well, did he play his first game? Was that against the Storm?
Yep.
Was that last year? Yeah, he got sort of like 15, 20 minutes. So young fella getting another opportunity, which is great. A lot of injuries at the moment with the Bronx.
Yeah.
They've sort of just been they get injuries, manage to get them back, and then they get new injuries. So, but they're still a good footy side. I like that Tolu Kohler's been put back to fullback. I thought he was one of their better players last week, where they again gave up a handy lead. They were up 16. They were up 16-4 against the Dolphins, and failed to finish that game off. It's a concerning trend now for for the Sea Eagles and their fans, because they really need to get on top of this stuff. Like, they've got a good enough outfit, they've got a strong enough football side to, when they get in the lead like that, be able to find a way to just close games out.
Yeah.
Just to close it out. But, yeah, we'll get back to that. You know, the Tolu Kola, I thought he was fantastic. He played in the centres last week. Went into fullback position late when Tommy Turbo was injured. So I do like that. The big in for them, though, is Olaquatu. I think maybe they've missed him a little bit on the edge, in particular Cherry Evans, not having his main man there to go to the line and sort of have that threat, particularly closer line, like in the good ball situations where he loves playing a nice little short ball to him, maybe even playing like a little drop-off play, a cross play close to the line just to isolate defenders. Big in for them. I just think Broncos, though, mate. Yeah, I just think Broncos will be too good for Manly. I just don't know how, as good as Tolu Kola is a ball carrier, I just don't know how they're going to go without Tommy Turbo.
Yeah, look, I think Broncos too, but I think it's going to be a much closer game than the odds are suggesting.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, if you're Manly, you're just heading into this game going like, boys, let's fall in love with defence. Like, let's love it. Let's not even think about attack. Let's not think about, you know, in the first 20 minutes, let's not, I watched the game on the weekend, and I've spoken about this during the week. The biggest concern for me was the second set they had coming out of trouble. They spun it on the third tackle. They dropped the ball, and they lost 20 metres and gave it to someone else. And look, in normal circumstances, I have no issue with teams trying to spin it and get some early yardage. But after a match like they had against the Raiders the week before, surely the message is, boys, first 5 sets, let's just get the foundation sorted.
Yeah.
Then if we want to start being, you know, spinning the ball, we can do that. So if I'm the Manly Seagulls, yes, obviously Tommy is a massive out. Like, I understand that. But Broncos are missing players too. So I think that if they go in with the mindset of, like, let's try and win this without offence, I do think it could be a tight affair, because you look at you look at Para last week. Parramatta were substantially the better side in the first half. Broncos just got lucky with a couple of bounces, and they scored length of the field tries. And I felt like in the first half, Para out-muscled, out nearly everything, the Broncos, and they had them on the back foot. And so if I'm Manly, I'm looking at that going, they did that without Mitchell Moses and Gutho. So surely we can do it this week at Magic Round.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're going to have to. They got history against them too. They haven't beaten the Broncos since round 10 in 2021.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time for the Sea Eagles. I just feel that they're just a stronger outfit at the moment, the Bronx. Yeah, simple as that. And if they play well and they hold on to the ball and play well, I think they beat Manly.
I think that Reece Walsh last week was really good in regards to holding the ball. He played quite safe, responded really well, whether he got a call from Billy or it was Kevy, or a mixture of both. That's what I really do like about Reece Walsh, is he may be brash, he may be, the next generation, but you can tell he cares. Sometimes he gets a bit excited and he has errors, but we've seen multiple times now in his short career that when he has one of those games where he has a few errors, the next game he responds to the coach, which is a trait that, like a lot of young superstars, sometimes their ego does get a bit ahead of them. They say, "No, I don't need to listen. Like I'm a superstar."
Yeah.
I like that Reece Walsh responded well.
Yep. And he'll be up for this one too, mate. Like, it's a big weekend, big crowd. Loves playing in front of the big audiences. So they kick off Friday night. They're the main game. So, I think he had a good balance right last week.
Yeah.
So he had some flair still, but he reined it in a little bit, that's a challenge. He's a 21-year-old footy player,
so young,
just starting out. Like, I think a lot of people forget about that because we see him so regularly and he's playing representing football already. Like, he's still only 21. So he's still learning his way. Like, I think back to Billy Slater as a fullback at 21 years of age, and he was making mistakes like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I look at Billy over his career, and you look at the results for the Melbourne Storm with him as fullback, it wasn't until he reined those errors in and played a lot more consistent style of footy. Like, he still had that bit of flair, but he understood that it was time and place.
Yeah.
Right? That's when the Melbourne Storm started winning premierships.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't when he thought he had to come up with the big play every time he touched the ball.
Yeah.
You know, it was time and place. Yep, he used to still back himself with his running game and his ability to beat defenders, but you know, gone were the days where you'd see long passes, you know, floating into the grandstand and passes flying over teammates' heads and all that type of stuff. When he reined it in, which, you know, we're seeing glimpses on from Reece Walsh, that's when the team started to play more consistently. So that's where Reece has got to get himself to.
Well, I say this all the time when, you know, you're giving Billy Slater the due praise that he deserves, is that the end product of Billy is a lifetime away from the Billy that came into NRL. You know,
Oh, yeah.
So we just remember one of the greatest fullbacks of all time. Like, that's what we remember, because it's the last few years. You see what he did, and you're just going, like, this guy is the most well-rounded, probably the most well-rounded fullback we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But, mate, you know, obviously coming through around the same-ish time Billy did, like, he worked super hard on his game, hard on his game. And I think that a lot of fullbacks can actually inspire them. You know, he didn't just come out the gate, the GOAT. He had to work towards it. Titans v the Knights. Chris Randall, Verrills named in the halves with Brimson Foran on both sidelines. Sammy Smith-Shields also out. Khan Pereira, Aaron Shoup joined the back line. Knights team news, a foot injury to Tyson Gamble. Cogger back into the side at 5'8". Saifidi is in for brother Daniel, who is suspended. Smithy, what do we reckon, mate?
Well, I was really impressed with what the Titans tossed up the other week against the Cowboys, although they really nearly blew it, didn't they? It was 20-0 at half time, and they didn't score another point in the second half and just snuck home against the Cowboys. But they lost Philip Sami, they lost Kieran Foran, one of their main men. I thought he was outstanding during that game, and AJ Brimson late as well. So you can forgive them for their sort of fade out late in the game. But it is concerning having those two guys in particular, Foran and Brimson, out. They've been so good for the Titans over the last sort of month, which has been really promising with the way they've played. I know they've won the 2 matches of the last 5 games. So they beat the Warriors on Anzac Day, but then they only lost to the Eagles by 4. They took Canberra into Golden Point, lost by 1, and they nearly knocked off the Storm. Storm snuck home by 2 points, and then they had the victory on the weekend. So they're playing some pretty good footy. I think it's slowly changing. You can see the work that Des has done with this footy team is starting to slowly turn, particularly with their defence. I think they're a lot more resilient with their defence now. But given those injuries to those guys, and look, you know, throwing Chris Randall and Sam Verrills in the halves, like they're good football players, but it's a big ask, right, to go into a position that you're not regularly playing or even training in. They're only going to have a couple of sessions this week to try and get settled in. So I think the Knights, mate. Yeah, I think the Knights, even though they've got some issues themselves with, you know, Tyson Gamble being out and Saifiti being suspended, and he's going to miss this weekend, I think the Knights can get it done.
Yeah, I really like what I've seen from both sides, actually. Both sides, I think, started the year quite disappointingly. I think that the Knights, although haven't hit the heights, obviously, of last year, I think they've been really gritty. Like, especially the last 2 weeks, I've really liked what I've seen from the Knights. They've played to conditions. They've played, I wouldn't say safely, but they haven't. They've just played a good, solid brand of footy. So it's not going to set the world alight. You know, at the same time, it's also not going to have a bunch of errors and be extremely risky. I think that Bradman Best has hit form at the perfect time for them. They've really needed a guy like Bradman Best to take that step with Kalen Ponga being out.
Yep.
I think a guy like Armstrong, he's not Kalen Ponga, and he probably never will be Kalen Ponga, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have certain strengths that Kalen Ponga doesn't have. For example, you know, his ball support around the middle and his speed is an asset that you could argue is maybe a little bit more than KP, because KP is focused more on ball playing. So if the Knights can find a way to adjust to that, yes, they obviously are going to always feel the effects of KP, but they may not feel them as strongly because there's other parts of their game that they're, you know, doing really well in. I think Bradman Best picking up the slack a little bit with that attacking weapon. We looked on the weekend. Normally a kick return that would most likely Marju would pick it up and he'd probably go towards the middle and maybe give the ball to KP. Instead, Bradman Best goes back to the sideline, which every centre should be doing on a kick, and gets the ball off Marju. Bradman Best makes the line break. Usually that's KP making the line break. And so I've actually been really happy with the Knights over the last couple of weeks. I still don't think that they most likely won't make the 8 this year, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be as disastrous as it looked for a period there.
Yep.
In regards to the Titans, what excites me the most about the Titans is they have reacted to their coach. There's been a clear reaction. Systems are starting to slowly fall in place. Whoever's wearing the jersey, they've had quite a few injuries over the last few weeks, but they seem to have all kind of stepped in and done their job. I think their defense, and also their defense has just been leaps and bounds. But their attack, their speed of the play of the balls, they're flooding the middle. On the weekend, the Cowboys just looked like they couldn't keep up. Like they looked like a slower footy side throughout the middle of the ruck. And so that's what's really exciting with the Titans. Although this year is most likely done in regards to making the 8, and look, crazier things have happened, but most likely, the positive is if they can carry this into next year, they may go from a team that doesn't make the 8 to a team that's genuinely doing some damage in the 8.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Smithy?
Well, there's fair incentive. I'm just back on the Knights. There's fair incentive to get a result this weekend too, because if they get a good result and a couple of teams above them stumble, then they could be in the top 8 after this weekend. Then they have a bye.
Yeah, fair.
So it's possibly 2 points this week, and then they get another 2 with the bye. And they're looking for they've won 3 in a row.
Mm.
So they're looking for 4 consecutive games, like a little mini winning streak, which. We spoke about this in the past, Kempy, on the captain's run. Like when you're able to string together, 4, 5, 6 wins in a row, like it pushes you up that ladder really, really quickly.
Mm.
So you could be in a bit of a slump. The team's not going so well. You're a little bit down the ladder. But if you put together, 4, 5, 6 wins in a row, all of a sudden you can go, you can find spots. You can leapfrog so many teams like that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you're like, oh, geez, we're not going well here. Like, we're sitting 15th. We're pretty low on the ladder. All of a sudden, 6 weeks later, you put together a good string of victories, and then all of a sudden you're sitting inside the top 8.
Mm.
And once again, everyone's happy. You're feeling good about the way things are going, and you've got your team in a great position, and you're feeling more confident. You're feeling more relaxed. The pressure's released a little bit on you because you're now sitting in the top 8, and you start to think and act more positively around your football.
Yeah.
So this is a huge one for the Knights, and they really should be going after it, mate. Particularly given the injuries that Titans have sustained. Those 2 guys have been massive for the Titans over the last month, as I said, Brimson and Foran. Without those guys there, they really should be going after the Titans.
Sharkies v the Roosters. Arguably match of the round. A massive clash. Roosters red hot. Sharkies an incredible win last week. Hines named to return after missing last week. Blake Brayley goes back to hooker. Now, that's a bit confusing because Blake Brayley did play hooker in attack. He just defended at 7.
Yeah.
McInnes to lock. Essentially played lock last week, and Williams to the bench. Roosters, Manu out with concussion. Junior Palma in the centres. Brandon Smith returns after missing last week with a calf injury. Smithy, what do you reckon here?
Wow, this. Well, we got Sharks sitting on top of the ladder, right? And Roosters have just been on fire the last couple of weeks. They've scored 140 points. Is that right? In the last 3 matches?
Yep.
It's just incredible. So they're on a bit of a run, and when they get a bit of a sniff, they really make you pay. And Sammy Walker's been a huge part of that. Some of the plays he's come up with lately, the last few weeks, are just incredible. You sort of just sit there and just clap. That 50-metre drop punt across field last week was just incredible. They make a bit of a break down that right-hand side, and you see space out to the left. There's no defenders left. They've all tried to go back and sort of stop that line break from becoming a try. And he looks up and goes, well, I'll get the ball out there as fast as I can, and I'll do it with a drop punt. So it's really hard to defend that stuff. So I think off the back of that. Look, Sharkies were brave last week, right? I don't think they played their best football. And again, like I said at the start of the show, I would have loved to have seen both sides with their best teams out there to see a good result. Sorry, not a good result, but a true result of the 2 best lineups going up against each other. But there's no doubt Nicho Hines returns, makes them an even more dangerous footy side. Blake Brayley gets to play the full 80 in the middle of the field, playing number 9. But I think Roosters.
Yeah, okay.
I just think Roosters, mate.
Geez, they look
Not
look bloody
knocking,
good.
not knocking Sharkies, because you can't. Like they're sitting on top of the ladder at the moment, and like you don't get there through luck. You get there through the style of footy and that hard edge that you play with. But I just think Roosters at the moment, with just their confidence and the style of footy that they're playing, they look really hard to contain at the moment. They look big and powerful, eh?
That's what I was about to say. You just look at them play, and teams just simply cannot go with them. They're too much. They're too big. They're too fast. They're too strong. And I look at the Sharkies, who I agree, mate. I think they've been outstanding. I think they've improved so much on last year. Their defence is much better. They're gritty as anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, when it comes to tests of a forward pack, like if the Sharkies want to really sit here and go, okay, where do we sit in premiership threat when it comes to just a forward pack?
Yep.
You couldn't ask for a harder test than the Roosters right now. You could argue, obviously, when the Penrith Panthers start hitting their straps, or when the Broncos get everyone back and they start hitting their straps, maybe that's a tougher task. But with the form the Roosters are in right now, there is not a tougher task in the game right now.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, can the Sharkies go with the speed and the power that the Roosters bring at the moment?
Yeah, well, their medals won the battle last week, right? So they got it over Melbourne, which went a long way to winning that match, right? So they win the battle in the middle, and the boys out wide they score the points. I thought for Cronulla, I thought their guys out wide were relatively quiet. Usually, when you're looking at the Sharks outfit, and you're talking sort of your outside backs, when you're looking at guys like Mulatalo and Katoa, they've got really high involvement and huge numbers. Like they're like extra front rowers coming out of their own end. I just thought they were a little bit quiet on the weekend. They're going to have to be really, really good this weekend against Roosters, because that's what the Roosters have been doing so well over the last month. Like Tupou, Suoli'i, Dom Young, mate, they are just chewing up the meters. Now, like they get credited with some of those meters from kick returns and all that sort of stuff, but they do a lot of hard work, a lot of hit ups. Like they don't mind taking on, talking about like middle forwards, Kempy. Like they're not going to be tested. They're not just going to be tested by guys like Collins, Warrior-Hargraves, Radley, and then even when their bench players come on, like they're going to be tested by Dom Young. He's going to come through the middle.
Yeah.
Tupou's going to come through the middle. Suoli'i's going to come through the middle. Like they're just going to have to keep showing up defensively and defend these big bodies.
Well, it's that Penrith Panthers mentality, isn't it? That you're getting tested in attack and defence. So when you're playing the Panthers, when you're coming out of your own end, you are getting line speed like you've never seen before for friggin' 80 minutes. But at the same time, when you're trying to defend them coming out of their own end, you've got Brian To'o.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So you get
Tungol.
Yeah, you're just getting tested constantly, and I think that you're right, mate. It's not just going to be the forwards testing the Sharkies. It's going to be those backs, and I think it's a really good opportunity, especially for obviously it's a good opportunity for the forwards of the Sharkies to test. But me personally, I think that the Sharks' outside backs are the most underrated backline in the competition. I think most underrated. Now, obviously not the best, but I don't think they get the raps they deserve. Now, this is a real good opportunity for them to go, okay, we're going up against Dom Young, Tupou, Suoli'i. Obviously, Mano's out, but Ponga, he's really good coming out of his own end. Obviously, Tedesco. Here's an opportunity for us to measure ourselves when it comes to coming out of trouble and kind of send a message to the rest of the comp that, we're also a top tier. Matter of fact, we did the numbers on the Monday podcast. The centres for the Sharks are actually better meter eaters this year on average than the Penrith Panthers centres.
Really?
Yes. And the only thing that totally throws out out of whack the numbers is the fact that Edwards and To'o are so many numbers. Like if you brought them back down to kind of like a normalish average, the Sharks back line would be quite similar.
Okay.
But when you actually compare centres, the Sharky centres get through more meters than the Penrith do. So Mate, it's going to be a huge class. I got the Roosters. I think
Yeah.
they have finally realised what works for them, and that's the power game through the middle,
Yes.
laying that platform that's just like hyper aggressive, hyper quick, and then falling into structures when they need to, but giving themselves the freedom to try things when they want to.
Yep.
Okay, let's get to the next game. Rabbitohs v Cowboys. Smithy, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going Rabbitohs.
Are ya?
I'm going Rabbitohs.
Are you really?
Yep, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's the footy god speaking to me right now.
Right.
Maybe I'm just I'm going crazy. I'm hearing voices, so that's not a good thing. Unless the Rabbitohs get up. If they get up, it's obviously a good thing.
Well, they got a few back, mate. Alex Johnston, he's back. Hasn't played since round 4. He's their go-to man as far as scoring tries are concerned. Although he hasn't. Has he scored one this year?
Johnston, I'm not sure. Surely.
Maybe not.
Surely.
He's looking to try and take over the top try scorer in
Ever.
premiership history.
Wow.
Gagai back. Tane Milne back. But Cows get a couple as well. Murray Tauranga, he's back as well. He's had a hamstring issue, I believe. And Jordan McLean, both hammies, actually. So they're bolstered. Look, still no confidence in the Rabbitohs. I'm going to go against you there, mate. I'm going to go Cowboys, although they really need to pull their fingers out of where. They've been no good. Have not won a game in 5 weeks. So the last time they won was round 5 against the Titans, and just haven't looked like being in the game since. The other day, watching them live the other day, calling that match, they had zero energy.
Yeah.
And no intent. I'll tell you one bloke, just quickly, because I know we've got to head to a break. One guy, if every player in this Cowboys outfit want to go away and just have a look at that Titans game, one guy they should watch is Griffin Neame.
Yeah.
Go and watch him play,
Yeah.
right? Watch the energy that he played with, the intent that he carried the ball into the Titans' defensive line, and the way he threw his body into his defence. If they all play the way he did, with that same energy and that same enthusiasm, they'll win this game by 30.
Warriors v Panthers. So we're picking into the side. Charles Nicholstad named to partner Tomato Martin at halfback. Egan back in the starting side. Luai moves to halfback, partnered by youngster Jack Cole in the halves. Tungor returns from suspension, pushing Alamotti to the bench. Eisenhuth and Laurie have been added to the bench. Interesting. That means that Laurie, they're carrying essentially 2 outside backs, and maybe Alamotti plays in the forwards. How do you see this game panning out, Smithy?
Oh, I think Penrith. Just because the Warriors, they really haven't looked themselves for quite some time now. Quite some time. And you've got to go back. I thought they started the year quite well. They had a pretty good, a challenging sort of opening fortnight where they took on the Sharks and the Storm, but they got close in both matches. Then they went on a bit of a run where they beat the Raiders, Newey, and the Rabbitohs. But since that draw with Manly, where they looked like they had the game wrapped up, right? They had it wrapped up. They just haven't looked themselves, Kempy. That's I don't know. And I know they have injuries, but we've just spent half hour talking about injuries throughout the entire competition at the moment. There's a lot of teams with players out, and particularly key players out, and they're managing to, play close to their style of football that they'd be playing if those injured players were still in. So, you look across their lineup, like they've still got a very good football side. I don't know, something's missing though. Like clearly, defense is lacking. Like they conceded 38 against the Roosters last week. They allowed the Titans to score 27 points in that victory on Anzac Day, and even so, and the Dragons scored 30 on them the previous week to that. So, yeah, concerning for the Warriors. So I'm going to go Panthers. They're a side that are really hard not to back. It doesn't matter who's in, who's out. They just play a good style of football, and you know that they're going to consistently put in good effort. And I think Panthers will do that again this week.
Yeah, the Warriors, I think you can tell that a team is, I feel like the Warriors have they are happy with last year. And that sounds a bit strange to say. What do you mean? Of course they're happy with last year.
Yeah.
But when I say they're happy, they're almost content with what happened last year. You know, we had this
Yes.
great year. How good's life?
Yeah. You're going to have a year off.
Yeah, like, you know, because you can see in the intensity. And I take it back to the game against the Titans, because the Titans find a way to get back into that match. And then the last 20 minutes is totally dominated by the Warriors. And so you look at that 20 minutes and you go, well, you can clearly do it, boys. Like, look how intense this is. Look how hard we're running. Look at our line speed. Where has this been for the rest of the match? And whereas if you look at the Rabbitohs, for example, like, there just really hasn't been that much intensity throughout most of their games. So you go, okay, there's much deeper problems here. The club's in a bit of a bad situation. Whereas you look at the Warriors and you go, I just think that they're lacking intensity and lacking urgency, because it seems like they're happy with what happened last year. It doesn't seem like they went away from last year going, you know what, it's actually devastating that we didn't make the grand final. It's, oh, well, you know, we fell short of where we should have finished. And so I think that they need to get back to playing high intensity footy where every single run matters, and not just being happy with doing your job. Yeah.
Yep. And they're going to have to do that, mate, this week. Like, 'cause if they don't play with that intensity, then the Panthers can really embarrass you.
Oh, mate, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And they won't do it in a way where they used to, where they just go bang, 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 and all of a sudden you're gone from the game. They'll slowly grind away at you, and at the end of the match, they put 40 on you.
Yeah.
So
Mate,
they're going to have to turn up with a fair bit of intensity this week.
look what happened to the Rabbitohs.
Yep.
You know, looking like they're in the match, and then by the end of it, it's a big loss. Storm v Eels. Now, never forget the great Pappy. I know he's injured, but lighting up a Magic Round a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Were you in that
2019,
game?
I think it was. Yeah,
you were a part of that
2019.
game.
I
Mate,
think
that
it was, yeah.
crazy.
Took a high ball right on his try line, beat about 38,000 defenders, and then put the Fox away.
Yep. Okay, Storm news. Coates returns from hammy injury. Anderson becomes 18th man. Cartwright named from a return from a rib injury. How do you see this one, Smithy?
Yeah, well, I've got Melbourne. I think they'll be a little bit disappointed. I know Craig Bellamy would have been disappointed with that loss on the weekend. I don't know. I don't know where he actually feels as though his team would be at the moment. Because they show really, really good parts of their football game at the moment, where they can be one of the best teams in the comp, but they seem to have these like little fade out moments in matches where they just, all their good work comes undone with just a couple of just unnecessary errors and a bit of ill discipline at time, and it's like they look down, they've got their opponent on the ground, and they look over to him and say, "Here, come back up,
Yeah.
get back up off the canvas, and let's get back in an arm wrestle type of thing." You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Absolutely.
it's not a conscious thing that they're doing, but they're just in a bit of a phase at the moment where they did it against the Titans, mate. You know what I mean? They did it against the Titans. They started the game really, really well. I know Pappenhausen suffered that injury at about the 20 or 30-minute mark in the first half, and he went off. He was playing really well, but they did the same thing with the Titans. They just said, "Here, come on, we've got you down, but come back up, get back into the game." So they can't afford to do that with a team like the Eels. Like they're a little bit, they are hit and miss, the Eels, right? Their best footy is very competitive. When they're not on, they're definitely not on. But if they turn up and they're on this weekend, and the Storm allow them to start dominating, it could be a very difficult night for them.
Tigers v Dolphins. Let's get straight into it, shall we? How do you see this one, Smithy?
Oh, loving the Finns, mate. Yeah, they fought hard last week to come back from that deficit, down 16-4 in after about 20 minutes against the Seagulls, of course. And yeah, I just love the way they play, mate. They play tough, they play gritty. Nothing seems to faze them. So I've got the Finns. The Hammer's back as well.
Ooh.
Big in. Although, you know what? I'm surprised. I actually thought they would have found a spot for Trey Fuller.
I thought they were going to hammer to the centres, Fuller at back. I really did. But yeah, I'm loving the Dolphins right now. Really one of the happy, feel-good stories of the game at the moment. Hopefully they can hold on. All righty, that is us done and dusted. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next week.
Enjoy Magic Round.